Hello and welcome to our Teaching for Success inclusive podcast series. I'm your host, Rosa Kemerembe. When was the last time you saw a problem and instead of waiting for someone else to fix it, you said to yourself, I can do something about this? Think about it. A school with no desks or chairs. We see them in the media and we think, that's sad. Then we continue with our lives as normal. A person in a wheelchair, a simple wheelchair, but the roads are rough, the wheelchair can't handle the bumps. The person is stuck. They don't go to work. They can't go to the market to buy their own food. They can't live their lives independently. And we think, that's unfortunate. Then we walk away. A blind person trying to cross a road, there's a zebra crossing, but it's just paint on the ground, no beat, no tactile paving, no way for them to know when it's safe to cross. They have to guess, they have to hope that they won't get hit by a vehicle. And we think, that's dangerous. Then we cross the road ourselves and forget about them. A double amputee who wants to ride a motorbike, just like everyone else. They want to be independent, they want to go out to work, they want to live. But there is no motorcycle designed for them, no adapted controls, no way for them to get on and ride. And we think, that's too bad. Then we ride our own vehicles and go past them. So here's the uncomfortable question. Why haven't we fixed these things? Why haven't we designed a better wheelchair? Why haven't we built schools with proper classrooms? Why haven't we created a zebra crossing that a blind person can use? Why haven't we built a motorcycle for a double amputee? And before you say money, let me stop you right there. The answer is not money. Let's not kid ourselves. Money helps. Yes, of course it does. I'm not stupid. But money is not the problem. The problem is something else. The problem is the recipient mindset. The recipient mindset is a way of thinking where you believe that solutions come from outside, solutions come from someone else, not you. Solutions come from elsewhere. It's the mindset that says, I can't fix this. This is someone else's problem. It's for someone else to fix. Someone else will do this for me. Someone else will do it for them. Why don't you go ask someone else? Don't ask me. It's the mindset that says, my country can't solve its own problems. We need to look abroad. We need to look to the US, to China, to India. We can't do this by ourselves. We can't make our own apps. We can't do anything. It's the mindset that says, why doesn't Rosa come and do all these things she's talking about in her podcast? Yes, I know some of you are thinking that right now. Rosa, you're talking about building schools, designing wheelchairs. Why don't you do it yourself? Oh yes, I've had that all before. And that right there, that's exactly what I'm talking about. The recipient mindset in action. Your recipient mindset. It's not about me. It's not about me. It's about all of us, including myself. Okay? It's about the attitude that says someone else should do it. Why should I? This attitude has been taught to us, and the place where we've learned it is in our education system. That's right. The system that is supposed to prepare our children for the future is preparing them to be dependent, to wait, to look outward instead of inward. But there is a solution, and it lies in two things: critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Today, I'm going to show you how our kids are failing to teach these skills and what we can do to change that, because we now have adults with that recipient mindset because they didn't learn it in school. So, what is the recipient mindset? Let me start with a powerful statement. A Ugandan student once said, what kills Africa is that we don't think. That's a child speaking, and he's not saying we're not intelligent. He's saying we've been trained not to question things, not to challenge the way things are, not to imagine something better, not to create solutions. We've been trained to receive instead of create. Don't we do that? Receive a lot of aid from World Bank and all of the many countries that support us. You see this everywhere on a daily basis. When a child is taught to memorize instead of think, we don't ask why. We just say, that's how school is. When you get sick, you hope you have enough money to go to another country to get treatment. You don't ask, why can't we just build better hospitals in Uganda? When you see a person in a wheelchair struggling on a rough road, you say, that's unfortunate, and you keep walking. You complain about the potholes in the road. You don't ask, why haven't we designed better roads, better wheelchairs that work here? Waiting and complaining have become our default setting. And it's not just waiting. There is also a defeatist attitude that comes with it. Have you had these voices in your head before? It's too hard. I can't do it. I'm not smart enough. Let them do it. I don't have the resources, don't have money. Someone else is better placed to do it. Why should I even try? Try somewhere else. Talk to someone else. We tell ourselves these things, we tell our children, we tell each other these things, and then we wonder why nothing ever changes. But here's the thing. The recipient mindset doesn't just affect our attitude, it affects our money, our future, our country. Every single year, Uganda spends billions sending people abroad for treatment, right? Either individual people, God bless them, some of them have the money to send their loved ones for treatment, and others the government sends them for treatment. That money could be spent building our own hospitals, paying our own doctors, nurses, and interns well, if our taxes was spent in the right way. Yeah, we'd see all of that. We'd be able to procure better equipment, build better schools, create solutions for our own people. But we don't do that. We take the shortcut, cheating, corruption. We pay another country's hospitals in India and Dubai instead of building our own. We import wheelchairs from China instead of designing our own. We wait for foreign NGOs to build schools instead of building them ourselves. In education, we praise the parents who sent their child to school in Kenya, in the UK, in the US. We say, those people, they're so lucky. But what message does it send to the child studying in their own country of Uganda? Are we saying our schools are not good enough? And if they're not good enough, why aren't they good enough? So are we going to default to the status quo and just keep sending our schools to study abroad and stay there and never come back and improve other countries with their own intelligence instead of our own? Does it make any sense? This is the recipient mindset in action, the belief that the answer is always somewhere else, the belief that we can't create our own solutions. And where did we learn this from? Our schools. These skills are not being taught effectively. So here's the hard truth. Critical thinking and problem-solving skills are not being taught effectively in our schools. Very few schools are using teaching strategies that promote independence, problem-solving, and critical thinking skills. Let me explain what I mean. Think back to your time in a school. What were you taught? When you were little, when you're in primary school, when you're in secondary school, you were taught to be quiet, raise your hand, wait for the teacher to speak. If you asked why, you were told, just do what you're told. If you got the answer wrong, you were punished. The classroom was not a place for questions. It wasn't a place for creativity either. It was a place for answers. And the answers were given to you if you didn't know them. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a young child in primary 3. She's curious. She loves asking questions. One day her teacher is teaching about teeth. And she raises her hand and asks, teacher, why do some people's teeth grow straight and other people's teeth grow crooked? The teacher has 2 ways to answer. Don't waste our time with foolish questions. Just learn what I'm teaching you. Or, that's a very good question. Never thought about that. What do you think? Let's think about it together. What could be the reasons? Which response teaches the student to think? Which one teaches them to trust their own mind? Which one teaches them to figure things out? Now, which response do you think happens in most classrooms? If you say the first one, you're right. Now, imagine the student grows up in a system where their questions are always shut down, where they're always told just to memorize because PLE is coming up, where they're never encouraged to think for themselves. What kind of adult do you think they become? Adults who don't trust their own judgment, adults who wait for someone else, a boss, a friend, a government official, an expert from abroad, to tell them what to do. An adult who sees a person in a wheelchair struggling on a rough road and says, that's unfortunate, instead of thinking, how can I design a better wheelchair? An adult who thinks, it's too hard, I can't do it, someone else will do it. And here's the thing, this is happening in thousands of classrooms across Uganda every single day. Very few schools are doing things differently. Very few teachers are using teaching strategies that promote independence. Very few classrooms are places where problem solving is encouraged. Very few children are being taught to think critically. Why? Because the system doesn't reward it. The exams don't test it as often as they should. Yes, they are beginning to, but they're not where they should be. The curriculum is not yet prioritizing it as much as it should. It started it, it's not there yet. Teachers are under pressure, okay, to cover the syllabus. They're under pressure to get students to pass exams and to test memorization, not thinking. So teachers teach to the test. They give notes, students memorize, everyone passes, but no one learns to think. Okay? Just because someone has scored highly in their national exams does not mean that they're critical thinkers or problem solvers, not necessarily. The system rewards memorization, not thinking. It rewards obedience, not creativity. It rewards silence, not curiosity. Okay? Critical thinking is the ability to analyze information, question assumptions, and make reasoned judgments. Okay? That is not being taught in most schools. Problem-solving skills is the ability to identify problems, generate solutions, and take action. Is this what is going on in our schools? Instead, children are being trained to be passive recipients of information, to accept what they're told without question, to wait for instructions from the teacher. And then we wonder why our graduates can't solve problems. We wonder why they can't solve problems in the workplace. Why do they look outside for solutions? Why do they wait for someone else to build their future? Instead, they'll go, ChatGPT. This is the recipient mindset in action, a system that teaches dependency instead of self-reliance. Let's think of critical thinking as the solution. How do we break this cycle of dependency? The answer lies in teaching our children two things: critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Let me explain what these are and why they matter. Critical thinking is the ability to think for yourself, to question what you're told, to look at information and ask, is this true? Is this fair? Is there another way to look at this? Is there another solution? It's the skill that says, I don't just accept things as they are. I think deeply about them. Now, problem-solving skills are the ability to look at a problem and figure out the solution. Not wait for someone else to solve it, but to take action yourself. It's the skill that says, I see a problem, I can find a way to fix it. These two skills are the opposite of the recipient mindset. When you have critical thinking skills, you don't just accept what you're told, you ask questions, you challenge assumptions, you think for yourself. When you have problem-solving skills, you don't wait for someone else to fix things. You look at the problem and say, what can I do about this? You see something in social media, you see a problem in a certain country, you see a problem in our own country, and you think, what can I do? Not what government can do, not what some other school can do. What can you do? Okay? Now, I know some of you are thinking, Rosa, this sounds big, it sounds hard, I can't do all of this. And that's exactly the defeatist attitude I'm talking about. Let me tell you a story. When Thomas Edison, who invented the light bulb, he didn't get it with the first try. No, he failed over and over and over and over and over again. Some say he tried more than 1,000 times before he made one light bulb work. 1,000 failures. And even then, the light bulb didn't stay the same. It's improved so many times. Since then, better materials, brighter light, longer life, different people over many years kept thinking, kept solving, kept improving the light bulb. The point is not that you have to do everything. The point is that you have to build the perfect, you don't have to build the perfect school or design the perfect wheelchair all by yourself. The point is that you can think, you can problem solve, you can brainstorm with other people, you can collaborate, and you can innovate. You don't have to do all the steps. You can do some of them. You can ask a question, can't you? You can suggest an idea. You can bring people together. You can try something small. You can reach out to people to join you to solve the problem. Think about what would happen if Ugandan children left school with these skills. What kind of adults would we have? What kind of economy would we have? We wouldn't send all our money abroad for treatment, would demand better hospitals, help build them, would design better equipment, would train more doctors, would start businesses, would innovate, would create. If every teacher asked more open-ended questions than closed-ended questions, if every child grew up feeling confident to ask questions, we'd stop waiting. We would start doing, we would stop depending, we would start building. This is not a dream. This is possible, but it requires a change in how we teach. Here's what we need to do. First, teachers need to be trained to ask questions, not just give answers. A good teacher doesn't tell students what to think. They guide students to discover answers from themselves by asking open-ended questions, the whys and the hows. Second, classrooms need to be places where questions are celebrated, not punished, not dismissed. A child who asks why or how should be encouraged, not silenced. Third, students need to be given real problems to solve, not just exercises in a textbook. Let them wrestle with challenges. Let them fail and try again. Let them learn that they can figure things out. So, in conclusion, here's my challenge to you, dear listener. If you're a parent, when your child asks a question, don't just give them an answer. Ask them, what do you think? Let them think. Let them figure it out. You're building their critical thinking skills. If you're a teacher, ask your students questions that have no single correct answer. Open-ended questions. Let them wrestle with it. Let them discuss it. Let them think. Give them problems to solve. Let them design solutions. You are building their problem-solving skills. And if you're doing this already, thank you. You are one of the few. We need more teachers like you. Okay? If you're a student, don't just memorize. Ask questions. Challenge what you're told. Look for problems in your community. Ask, how can I solve this problem? Problem solving is not just for math and science and your work in school. You have the power to think for yourself and solve the world's problems. Yes, young as you are. If you're a citizen, when you see a problem, don't just say, that's sad, complain about it, that's unfortunate, or the government, this, that. No, ask yourself, what can I myself do? Even small actions matter, even asking questions matter, even bringing people together to discuss, to solve questions that you have and problems matters, because change doesn't start with the government. It doesn't start with the Ministry of Education or Health or local government or whoever. It doesn't start with the president. Change starts in your home, in your classroom, and right here in your mind. Critical thinking and problem-solving skills are the weapons against recipient mindset. With them, we stop waiting, we start doing. With them, we stop depending, we start building. And with them, we stop looking outside, we start fixing ourselves. Remember, The recipient mindset is learned, and what is learned can be unlearned. Critical thinking and problem-solving skills are not gifts, they are muscles. And muscles grow when we use them. We don't have to do everything. You don't have to do it alone. You don't have to get it right the first time. Thomas Edison failed 1,000 times before he lit up the world. So start today, ask a question, solve a problem, think for yourself, collaborate with others, brainstorm, try, fail, try again. The future of our country depends on it, because the solutions we're waiting for are the solutions we haven't built yet. Think, solve, collaborate, innovate. This is your host, Rosa Kemerembe. Until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and never stop solving.